Okay, in problem 1, this is chapter 12, practice test solutions. And in problem 1, we're looking at this idea that I have two tangents coming together at the circle. And this can be 115 plus x is equal to 180. And when I subtract, x is going to be equal to 65 degrees. Now, keeping in mind, that's one way of looking at this problem, but this is probably the best way when we consider the fact that 90 plus 90 plus x plus 115 is 360, and this is half of it, so that becomes this. And this will work all the time this way for this type of situation, so I'd always use it like that. Okay, in problem 2, you're looking at this idea that you have 6, 8, and 10, and they're supposed to be tangent. If they are tangent, that means touching, and the tangent in the radius or the diameter make 90 degrees at those points. So I've got 6 squared plus 8 squared is equal to x squared. 36 plus 64 is equal to x squared. And now I've got 100 is equal to x squared, and x is 10. Now in this next one, when I have two tangents coming to a circle and from a point outside, the distance from the point that they meet back to the circle is the same. So in this one, this is 4, so is this, that's 4. So 10 minus 4 is 6. And that's what this distance is 6. So x must therefore be 6. In forms, we'll determine whether a tangent line is shown. Okay, and how I do that? I use Pythagorean Theorem. If it works in the Pythagorean Theorem and it's a right angle, then it is a tangent that's shown. If it doesn't, then it's not. This is the side opposite the right angle, so that's my C. And here, it looks funky, but this whole length is 25, this whole length is 17, this whole length is 10 to the square root of 5. So now I've got 15 squared plus 20 squared is equal to 25 squared. And I'm really wondering, is it true? And when I'm doing that, I'm going to go with 225 plus 400 is equal to 625. That's true. So it is a tangent line. And remember, it is a tangent line because this is a right triangle. Let's get that over there and get this locked in. We gotta lock that in. Lock. And we'll get that back. Now, this next one, I've got 9 squared plus 14 squared is equal to 17 squared. That's what I'm wondering. Will that be a tangent? Well, I've got 81 plus 196 is equal to 289. Well, in this case, if I add those together, that's 277 is equal to 289. That's not true. So this is not a tangent because it's not a right triangle. That's not a tangent. And this last one, I've got 10 squared plus 20 squared is equal to 10 to the square root of 5 squared. Now, keep in mind, when you do this, this is 500. This is 100 plus 400, and that is 500 equal 500. My concern is you operating your calculator to get 500. Make sure you can, if you're having difficulty, see Mr. Bloom about your operation. But in this case, it is a tangent. Okay. Now on our next problem, problem 8, I'm looking at finding x, but I only have my tool of Pythagorean Theorem, and I can only use half of x. So I'm going to call that a. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, where a is my unknown I'm looking for. 3 squared is equal to 8 squared. That's 64. This is 9. It's a squared. And now I'm looking at this being 56. Well, 55, excuse me, a squared is equal to 55, and a is equal to the square root of 55, but that's only half of my value. So I'm really looking at x is equaling 2 times the square root of 55, which I put in my calculator is 14.8. So x is equal to 14.8. And this one in 9, and this one looks confusing, but you gotta keep in mind that that's the same as the other side, and they just want that 1/2 part, and I know that this is 6 because my diameter is 12, so my radius here is 6, and that's my hypotenuse, my triangle here. And again, I'm going a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is 3 squared, b squared, 36. I got 9 minus 36, which is 27. So the square root of 27 is x, and that comes out to be 5.2. Okay, so x is equal to 5.2. And this last one, again, this is radius is 8, this is 12. Now remember, if I have something perpendicular to a segment that goes through the center or diameter that goes through the center, it splits that chord into 2 equal parts. So I'm looking for that this is 6. I've got a radius there, and that's my hypotenuse, that's 8. And I'm really looking for this x. How far away is it? So I've got 6 squared plus x squared equal 8 squared. So it's 64 equal x squared, and this is 36. So 36 minus 64 is going to give me a 28. X is equal to square root of 28, and x is equal to 5.3. Okay, so that's our first 10 questions, and we'll slide on to next ones here as we get going. So in problem 13, I've got a couple things going on here. I've got this inscribed angle. The inscribed angle is half the measure of the arc and intercepts. So A is equal to 2 times 77. So 2 times 77 is going to give me 154. So that's my A value. Now, I know some other stuff here, and I'm just going to take this red away here. And that's A, we found that. We're just going to slide this over. My B value is stemming from the idea that I got 180 minus 54. And that's 126. It's 126 degrees. So that's what that value is there. So this is 126. And the reason I come up with that is because this is the average of a few things. I already know that A is 154. So 180 minus 154 is going to give me 26. Okay, so I know this arc is 26. And so the average of the two arcs will give me the angle B. 126 plus 26 divided by 2 will give me angle B. And that's going to be 152, which half of that's going to give me 76 degrees. Okay, so at 76 degrees, we've got our B value. In problem 14, I've got 4 things I'm supposed to find, okay? And one of the first things I'm going to find is C. So C is equal to 180 minus 76, so that's 104 degrees. So this C is 104. Now, I got C, and angle B intercepts C. So angle B is half of 104, which is 52 degrees. Okay, the other thing, angle A is half of 76, and I want to make sure you see that. Apparently I've got to like hide a few things here, so let's see what we can do about getting that up there for you. Angle A is 76 divided by 2, which is 38 degrees. Okay, so I've got 38 degrees for A. Now in D, that is just straight up. It comes in contact with a 180 degree angle, so half of 180 is 90, but it's also by a theorem that a inscribed angle coming in contact with the diameter has a degree of 90 degrees. Okay, so we got those things going on. In 15, I'm looking at opposite angles of a four-sided figure inscribed in a circle are supplementary. So 80 plus B is equal to 180, so B must therefore be 100. 75 plus A is equal to 180, so A must be 105. So that's what those two values will be. As we're going on here, finding the value of each variable, assume that the rays that appear to be tangent are. So we got a lot of things going on here. Okay, my first thing is that C is 180 degrees because that's the total distance or degree measure of that arc. D, so C is 180. D is half of that, 180 divided by 2 because it's an inscribed angle, and inscribed angles are half the arc measure and they intercept. And going with that, B is equal to 36. Ooh, we got to make this a 35. Okay, you just can't normally just change these things, but we're going to make that 35 degrees because otherwise it won't work, and you'll understand why. So I know angle B is 35 times 2, or the measure of arc B is 35 times 2, which is 70. And it would make sense now that this is 110, and A is at 110 divided by 2, which is 55 degrees. So now we've got all those values that we were supposed to find, and we're good to go. In 17, I've got to find just A, B, and C. C is half the value of 150. So because that's an inscribed angle, C is equal to 150 divided by 2, which is 75 degrees. Okay, now keep in mind, well, we jumped a little bit. When I'm doing this, I've got 150 plus 90, that's 240. 360 minus 240 is 120. That is my value for A. Okay, so now my B is half of that. B is equal to 120 divided by 2, which equals 60 degrees. So I've got A, I've got B, I've got C. We can move on. Now on this next one, I mean, it looks like a whole host of things are going on here that are just crazy. But you got to keep in mind, this is a 43-degree angle, so this arc is 86 degrees. And folks are like, why in the world is that arc being 86 a big deal? Well, because twice the angle it intercepts, so the arc is 86. So 180 minus 86 gives us a 94. So D is equal to 94. That means C is half of that. C is half of that 94. So C is half of 94. So that's 140. That's 47 degrees. Okay. Now, keeping in mind with that, and I'm going to get rid of that blue so you can see some other things I'm going to point to. I've got D, I've got C. I know B automatically, by definition, is 90 degrees because it's an inscribed angle that intercepts the arc that has the diameter as endpoints. Diameter points, endpoints as endpoints. Now, keeping in mind further, we're looking at A, and A intercepts that 86 degree. So A is 43, because 86 divided by 2 is 43 degrees. Now in problem 20, we're looking at angles outside the circle. And angles outside the circle are big minus little divided by 2. So I've got this angle, 72. I've got this is 95. I got to find x. X is equal to 360 minus 95 plus 72. So I'm going to do 95 plus 72 on my calculator in problem 20, and x comes out to be 193. So I got 193. Make that a better 9. So now I've got big minus little, so my y is 1/2 of big minus little, and I've got 1/2 of 193 minus 72, and that's going to equal 60.5 when I'm done. Okay, we're just going to group those together. Probably do it the other way. Get that going, and we're moving on. This next one, if I go 360 minus 110, I get 250. So now I know this is 250. This part of it is 250. So now again I got x is equal to 1/2 of big minus little divided by 2, or times 1/2. So I've got 250 minus 110 is 140, which equals 70 degrees. So x is 70 degrees. Okay, in 22, I'm looking at two values, 85 and 140, and these two values will help me find x degrees. X degrees is 85 plus 140 divided by 2. And that 85 plus 140 divided by 2 is 225, which is 112.5. Now, it's important to keep in mind that's 112.5 in here. And there's a relationship between x and y. They're supplementary. So y is equal to 180 minus 112.5, which is going to give us a 67.5 degrees. Now, we've done angles all the way up through 22 here. Okay, so now that we're done with angles, we're going to look at side measures. And I've got side measures here. I'm looking at 23. I've got a chord-chord relationship, the relationship between two chords. I got 7 times 8 is equal to 10 times x. Well, that's 5.6 is equal to x after I multiply and divide. My next one isn't a chord-chord relationship. It's a tangent-secant. And whether it's a tangent-secant or a secant-secant, it's the same mantra I want you to think about. It's the outside portion of the segment times the entire length of the segment. So that's why on a tangent, the outside and the entire length are the same. And the outside times the entire length, okay, 6 plus 12 is 18, so 6 times 18. And now I've got x squared is equal to 108. Okay, so x is equal to the square root of 108, and x is equal to 10.4. Okay, in 25, same thing. It's a secant, secant. So it's the outside times the entire length is equal to the outside times the entire length, which is 21. This is 105, and this is 36 plus 6x. I'm subtracting 36 from both sides, and I got 6x equals 69, and x, after I divide, is equal to 11.5. Sliding on, problem 26. Okay, there's a lot of things going on in 26. If I can just stay focused, it'll make it easier. I have this value of x and 7 and 3 and 13. So I got 3 times 13. I'm using the chord-chord relationship. 7x. So this is 39 is equal to 7x, so 39 sevenths over x. But if I have my calculator and I divide out, I'm looking at 5.6 is equal to x. Now, the other portion of this answer is here for my y, and that is a 6 times 6 plus 13 plus 3, which is 22. 6 times 22 is equal to 7 times 7 plus y. Okay, now, I've got this going on. 6 times 22 is me 132. Let me just double check. So I've got 132. It's equal to 49 plus 7y. 132 minus 49 is going to give me 83. 83 is equal to 7y. Divide by 7, and I've got 11.9 is equal to y. Now remember, this was all for problem 1. So I'm going to group those together. So we got those to look at later. Okay, and I'm going to go on to 27. 27, I've got 2 secants coming together. So I've got the outside times the entire length. Excuse me, the entire length I must add is equal to the outside times my entire length. Now this is 200 on the right, and I've got 7.75, which is 56.25, 7.5 squared, and 56.25 plus 7.5x, and I've got 200 minus 56.25, okay, and that's 143.75, and I'm going to divide that by 7.5, and I will get 19.2 is equal to x. And that's, I'm rounding to get my 19.2. And maybe perhaps let's do it this direction because that's how I was doing it, 19.2. Okay, so that's my value for 27. I'm going to group those together. Now 28's really kind of involved when I'm looking at the, oh no, I lied, it's not involved. 28 is this. I've got x, my outside length, times the whole length, x plus 15, equal to 6 the square root of 6 squared. Okay, now 6 the square root of 6 squared is 216, and this is x squared plus 15x. So x squared plus 15x minus 216 is equal to 0. Now I've got to come up with values that will allow me to get to 216, and I'm thinking I've got a 24 times 9. Okay, when I factor these out, if I play around with them, so I'm just doing FOIL. That's all I'm doing. Okay, you can use quadratic formula if you'd like. I've got 24 and 9 are factors that work to 216. Their difference is 15. This has got to be plus, that's got to be minus. Now, I've got to use zero product rule. X plus 24 is equal to 0, or X minus 9 is equal to 0. I know X is equal to 9, and I know here X is equal to negative 24. This is extraneous, so X is equal to 9 is my answer. So my value here for 28 is X equal 9. In 29, I'm going to have you all skip that. Okay. You have to use systems of equations. I don't have anything like that on the test. Okay. In 30, I've got two planks that are across the circular pool shown in the figure at the right. What's the length of the longer plank? So this is a chord-chord relationship initially, and 9 times 8. So I got 12x is equal to 72. Dividing by 12, I get 6. But that's not my answer. I'm not saying, well, x is 6, so the other one is this. I have to think about what I have. I've got 12 plus x, which is an 18-foot plank. And then I got 9 plus 8, which is a 17-foot plank. And my question asks, what is the length of the longer plank? Well, the longer plank is 18 feet. Now, my last ones are all about circles. So in 31, I've got my center. Remember, the general form for my circle is x minus h, quantity squared, plus y minus k, quantity squared, equals r squared. In this case, h and k are 0, so I got x squared plus y squared equals 16. Here I've got x squared plus y minus 5 quantity squared equal 9. Here I've got x minus 9 squared plus y plus 3 squared equal 49. Here I've got x plus 4 quantity squared plus y squared. Y squared equals r squared because I don't know what it is yet. So now I got to plug in 2 and plug in 1. And now I've got 6 squared, which is 36, plus 1 is equal r squared. So this is 37, and r is the square root of 37. Okay, so now I can write the equation to be, in this case, x plus 4 quantity squared plus y squared equal 37. So that's what I've got there. Got 2 left. Group these. My last 2. I find my center. My center is -1, -3. My radius is 1. Okay. And now I go -1, 1, 2, 3. Oops, -1, -3, -1, 1, 2, 3. That's my center. And my radius is 1 out. So I got a circle right here. In this one, my last one, my center is 1, -2. My radius is the square root of 5, which is a little bit more than 2. So I'm again, this is an estimate of what my circle would be. So I've got 1, -2. Okay, that's my center. I gotta get it at least centered best. And then I go out a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. And ooh boy, I just didn't go a little bit more on that one, did I? And that's what I've got from my circle right there. So that's what I've got. Those are the 36 questions on your review. Hopefully everything goes well. Now, if you are interested in the answer on that problem 29, let's talk about that. In problem 29, I've got a couple of relationships. Okay, I know 120 plus x plus y is equal to 360. Okay, that's relationship number one. Relationship number two, I know that the outside angle is equal to 1/2 of big minus little, and big is y, minus little is x. So I have these two relationships. Now, what I'm going to do is use substitution. Okay, and in this substitution, I've got to know that y is equal to something and x is equal to something. Let's see if I have these separated. I'm going to separate them out. I'm going to solve this one for y. So now I've got this as y is equal to 240 minus x. Okay, so I'm going to plug that in right there. So now I've got this as 30 is equal to 1/2 240 minus x minus x. Okay, so now I'm looking at that, and I have 30, and actually let's call that 60. Let's start doing some stuff, multiplying, and this is 240 minus 2x, and I subtract 240, and I get negative 180 is equal to negative 2x, and I am finding out that x is 90 here as I divide. So x is 90. Well, x is 90, so that's 240 minus 90 is equal to 50. So y is 150, excuse me, y is 150 as I go through. So I've got x is 90, y is 150, and we're good to go on. Have yourselves a wonderful day. I hope this goes out well. If you have questions, remember to come in and chat with Mr. Bloom about any solutions you need.